It added to the mysterious atmosphere enveloping the scene. She suddenly spoke up to comment. "Look, everything is better when you stay silent. Do you know what you've made me endure? Oh, you can't answer, can you?" Saying that, she showed no fear and calmly confessed inwardly. "I killed my husband when I returned. Everything started from that day. We had only been married for a month when he died. Now I'm facing the death penalty for the crime of killing him." After struggling to escape, she had to stop and lean her hand against a nearby tree, then gasped for breath. Suddenly, she saw a building ahead, which surprised her, and she muttered, wondering if it was a temple in a place like this, then hurried over and opened the door. Observing the inside, she sighed in relief, thinking at least she had found a place to hide. Truly relieved. Could this place have been abandoned for a long time? Just then, someone suddenly shouted loudly, ordering to search every corner of this place. She quietly turned her face and frowned in surprise, thinking, "They have come this far already?" Hearing the footsteps of soldiers getting closer to her made her extremely scared. She thought silently. Suddenly, a black-haired soldier roughly pushed the door open and shouted loudly to announce, "The Countess's wife is here." Hearing that, she was terrified and thought, No, I don't want to be killed like this. Please save me. I don't want to die like this, Lord. If you can hear my voice, please save me this one time. Even though I live without a clear purpose, I don't want my life to end so empty. Please." In the moment close to death, everything around me seemed to stop. I heard a voice say, "I will let you go back in time, but in exchange, I will take your lifespan." She burst into tears and asked in confusion, "What?" The mysterious voice then explained, "Lia Chiseskia, you were destined to live until 80 years old, but now you are close to death much earlier than your destined day. I will take half of your lifespan, 45 years. If you die again after going back, I will once again let you go back in time, with only half your lifespan remaining." The voice faded away after saying that, and I died immediately. The moment the cold sword cut through her body was also when she suddenly woke up, hurriedly sat up, and gasped for breath. Suddenly her eyes caught sight of an item not far away, and she couldn't help but mutter in disbelief. It was the dress she wore on her wedding day. Then she fell silent, thinking before the cold feeling on her neck disappeared. I had returned exactly to my wedding day, a wedding where I had no voice. If not for this wedding, I wouldn't have died. Too confused, I tried to escape, but was then locked in the mansion, arrested for killing my husband. Once again, I returned to my wedding day just to wait for death, with 25 years of lifespan left. So this time, I made a plan and tried to escape, but every plan failed. Forced to marry and finally executed. Lifespan left 15. Although this was the third time facing death, I still couldn't get used to that feeling, and a new feeling appeared inside me. I was angry. This overwhelming emotion paralyzed all reason. It was all caused by my husband, the one who repeatedly caused my death. No matter how many times I lived, I killed him. I thought I would finally be free, but I was imprisoned for murder and died 4 times. Lifespan left 5 years. Even my efforts to kill my husband failed. To be precise, killing him without reason was forbidden. This time I started collecting evidence that my husband had planned a rebellion. Wouldn't it be better for me to accuse him to the king before his betrayal was exposed? But while digging for information, I was caught red-handed by my husband once again. I let myself fall into the underground prison of the palace, but now in my 7th life, with only 1 year and 3 months left to live, I finally succeeded, not knowing what horrifying scene has made the maid so terrified that she dropped the food tray on the floor and panicked, screaming out loud. Hearing that, she immediately turned to look at the maid and quickly covered her mouth to prevent any sound from escaping, while her whole body trembled uncontrollably with fear. Raising her husband's thinking device high to look at it, she sighed in frustration. "Aha, truly meaningless. Can I borrow the tray for a moment?" After a moment, she leisurely held the tray containing her husband's thinking device, Count Botus, in her hand and forcefully pushed the door open, startling the nobles present at the party, who couldn't help but murmur in discontent. "What the hell do you think you're doing? Do you know where this is?" She ignored their words, quickly knelt and bowed, then respectfully said, "Your Majesty," before calmly lifting the lid and raising the tray high with a faint smile, declaring, "I present to you the head of the traitor." She was the youngest child in a noble family. Her mother had died when she was little, and her 2 brothers had almost become her enemies, unable to wait to harass her daily. Her father loved his 2 sons as the family's hope, while to him, his daughter was the shining asset of the Chiseskia family. Red became a victim of her father, who tried to sell her before she reached adulthood. She was used to the condescending, discriminatory looks directed at her. Her husband, Count Botus, also. She thought he was a pervert who was always interested in young women. But on their wedding night, Count Botus clearly declared to her that this was just a marriage to mark the freedom to use the Chiseskia territory. "Don't think we're husband and wife." After saying that, the Count left the room and treated her as if she didn't exist. Red was left alone, truly relieved. No husband, no family, a feeling of liberation from the family that had tormented her for so long, a sweet peace. Everything remained the same until the Count rebelled. When King Ka praised my achievements, he held a 4-day-long party, but that was just an excuse. The thick documents I gave the king over a long time showed that many families were involved, so the king wanted to find those behind this conspiracy. He imprisoned all the nobles, right before his eyes, but no one knew about it. Well, this has nothing to do with me. Moreover, with bright eyes looking at the delicious food in front of her, Red smiled brightly and murmured, wondering what she should eat first. The nobles attending the party immediately murmured in dissatisfaction. How can she be so calm after slitting her husband's throat, even presenting his head? Oh my god, disgusting. While happily enjoying the food, Red smiled faintly, thinking, I'm going to die anyway, so I might as well enjoy all the delicious food here before I die. Red had only 1 year and 3 months left to live. Suddenly, someone's sharp voice startled her, and she thought to herself, that voice. The person suddenly exclaimed, what the hell is going on? Father heard you did a good job. I've never been so proud of you. As expected of my little daughter. She didn't answer immediately, but stared at the brooch, pinned to Count Friskia's chest. After a moment, she thought with disgust that it was like he had gotten something. After selling her and then pretended to smile with squinted eyes, saying, nice to meet you, Father and the 2 Avengers. I really want to see everyone at tonight's party. He smiled and confirmed, of course, I must come. If you miss me, Father, come and see me anytime. Aren't we family? Red smiled coldly and sarcastically asked, when are you going to sell me again? How can you say that after all you've done to me? Countess Friskia was stunned and asked back, what? She smiled faintly and replied, you know, even if a person has no money, then they also have dignity here, Brit said, then bluntly picked up a glass of wine and sang directly onto Count Friskia's body, causing him to be surprised and shout loudly, exclaiming, what the hell is going on, blonde-haired brother? Seeing that, he frowned, gritted his teeth, and blamed, how dare you, purple-haired brother? Red angrily continued, you. At that moment, someone suddenly rang a bell, causing Count Friskia, his 3 sons, Red, and other nobles to simultaneously turn their eyes toward the emperor, then hurriedly bowed to show respect. His attendant spoke loudly to explain, the king wishes to say a few words. The emperor suddenly called, Red Botus, please come forward. Because you have tirelessly dedicated yourself to the kingdom, I am very proud of you. The emperor of Umark Kingdom said that the treason committed by Count Botus is a great threat to the empire's stability. Therefore, all AI closely related to the Botus family will be executed. However, you will be allowed to return to normal days as before and regain the title Red Chiseskia. I will give the Chiseskia family anything to repay your contributions. So, what do you want, Red Chiseskia? Red quietly expressed, what I want is to have freedom. In the past, I had to marry according to my father's wishes, but now I just want to think about myself. After hearing Red's words, the emperor rubbed his chin and pondered for a moment, then said in a deep voice, if that is the issue. Suddenly, he paused and stared at her for a while. Seeing this, she couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine, and quietly bowed her head, suspiciously thinking, what is this feeling right now? After a moment of silence, without saying anything, the emperor suddenly said, Bradley Chiseskia, I grant you ownership of Botus, and appoint you as the head of the Chiseskia family. This is issued by royal decree. Hearing this, Red immediately bowed and saluted, replying, I am very honored, your majesty. Just as she finished speaking, someone suddenly entered through the door outside, causing everyone to be curious and quickly turn their heads. Upon seeing the 3 people enter, she couldn't help but be surprised and thought silently, the king's assistants. Those 3 people paid no attention, and with surprised looks and whispers from the nobles, quickly stepped toward the emperor. Then the assistant hurriedly reported something to him. Seeing this, Red couldn't help but feel a bit curious and thought, depending on the investigation they conduct, no one knows how many will be executed. Just as she thought this, the emperor's attendant suddenly raised his hand, then smiled and announced, Your Majesty, now, you all can continue to enjoy the feast comfortably. Hearing this, Red couldn't help but be suspicious and thought, I wonder if they have resolved this matter today. After thinking, she stepped toward the balcony. Suddenly, someone called out, Excuse me, Count. She quickly turned and asked, What is it? The king's assistant reported, I heard a large amount of mana stones were found in the Botus territory. Rick was puzzled upon hearing this, so he just stood there with wide eyes. He continued, They lie deep inside, and no one lives nearby, so I guess the Botus family didn't notice. Would you like to have them buried? About 30 billion gold. She held her head and smiled foolishly, thinking, but my ransom is 5,000 gold coins, right? But 30 billion gold? The king's assistant was confused and called out, Count Chiseskia. Red did not respond, but placed her hand on her forehead and laughed loudly, then guessed silently, So you are saying I should go bury the gold? Meanwhile, inside the feast, nobles curiously glanced outside, whispering, her status rose overnight, and now she has become a wealthy person. Do you think 30 billion is nothing? They looked at each other as if talking without knowing the main topic. Do you think so, Count? Count Hafta did not answer, but suddenly stood up. Someone quickly introduced him. He is the owner of Hafta Agency, Count Haifa. Then quickly introduced him, saying he is the owner of the Hafta BA Agency, Count Haifa. She heard that and was a bit surprised, thinking he was the owner of the Haifa Agency, where the business operates, which started developing in the capital a few years ago and became the most promising enterprise of the empire. He sneered and speculated, asking if she was happy after humiliating both her father-in-law and her biological father. Red shyly asked back, Why? I wouldn't dare. I only punished a traitor, yet my family sold me out to those criminals. I know you hate me, but shouldn't you be careful with your words in front of someone like me? Count Hofdar angrily narrowed his eyes and asked again, what did you say? She pointed directly at him while sneering and replied, do you know what I saw? While gathering 10 pieces of evidence of treason, he was sweating and forced a smile, sighing, ha, are you serious? What do you mean? I sneered and answered, I haven't finished serving the king's meal yet. That's why you should shut up if you don't want to die. Yes, about your information, if anything happens to me. The remaining documents will be sent immediately to the king, so be careful, okay? The actions of the two quickly attracted the attention of all the nobles attending the banquet. Seeing this, I sighed inwardly, thinking, damn it. She softly called the count. He turned pale and dazedly asked again, what? I said, all right. Hearing that, he smiled with satisfaction, eyes squinting. The proposal made me laugh. Cheer up, don't lose interest. Today, I finally escaped the endless cycle of death, and a new day began. Above all, at that time, the emperor declared that he granted me the right to own the Bodhis territory and appointed me as the head of the Saikia family. Right after, the emperor's assistant also announced that I currently have about 30 billion gold. Today is also the day I became the richest in the empire and became a female count because all the previous servants were caught in the rebellion and expelled. I had to hire all new servants, but that was quite convenient amid all the repeated deaths. No one secretly thought about it. Thinking this, I felt a bit bored and muttered. I told myself to run while admiring the beautiful face of the black-haired maid, and gently smiled to announce, Count, everything is ready. The brown-haired maid with big round eyes exclaimed, she really is the most beautiful woman in the world. I sneered and wondered, I wonder if this is what it feels like to stand before an angel. Both of them looked confused after hearing my question and stood there blankly staring at me for a moment. Then, for some unknown reason, one suddenly slapped me loudly. I pressed my hand to my cheek, then gently smiled and thanked everyone. After a while, glancing around, I felt a bit embarrassed and suggested, can everyone leave me alone for a bit? This isn't a dream. Just then, someone suddenly approached and asked, the owner of the magic stone mines? Seeing the person approaching, it was Prince Rutop von Ermac. I hurriedly bowed and greeted, it's an honor to meet you, Your Highness. Then thought to myself, unlike the current king who never showed his face, the prince directly mingled with the nobles and strengthened his political position as the administrator. However, he had a flaw in his personality. Finally, Rutop sneered and asked, the forces targeting the magic stone mines, he will definitely harm you. What do you think if we protect and manage the mines together? I closed my eyes slightly, smiled faintly, then calmly replied, he is too rigid and greedy. My lord, I appreciate your concern, but I will handle everything. He looked a bit doubtful and asked, handle it yourself? One of the virtues of a ruler is patience. I smiled brightly and replied, isn't that so? Soon, I will disappear myself. Rutop was surprised and asked again, what? I calmly said, well, I have to go now. Saying that, I quickly walked away but didn't forget to glance back at Rutop, who was too shocked by my boldness to say a word. Then he smiled awkwardly and thought, should I be executed for insulting the royal family? If that's the case, they can only take the count's head. Thinking this, I stopped and looked around. At that moment, Count Friskia suddenly approached and smiled softly, calling my name. I heard the news about the magic stone mines. I was very annoyed and thought, why does someone cling like a leech? When I was locked in darkness so naively and foolishly, I once believed in blood relations. I thought they would come to save me, maybe today or tomorrow, or maybe just me, not realizing that hope and expectation. That fading will pull me deeper into the mire. Now it means nothing, but a fading ordinary feeling. After thinking that, Red immediately stepped forward and bowed before the emperor. Seeing that, he loudly declared, Redlie S.A. Kia, let us rejoice for the appearance of the new countess, the lighthouse of hope for the Omak Empire. As he finished speaking, his assistant quickly brought a tray, holding a small, dark green box. As Red saw the ring inside the box, she couldn't help but be amazed, thinking silently, the seal is different from my father's. This is a symbol that belongs only to me. The emperor suddenly spoke, I believe you will continue to serve the kingdom in the future. She immediately bowed respectfully and thanked him. Thank you, Your Majesty, said Red, then slowly raised her head. But unexpectedly, she coincidentally met the sharp blue eyes of the emperor, staring intently at her, making her startled and thinking, that look is just like before. Why is he so close now? Red hadn't even finished thinking when he suddenly reached out, then unexpectedly grabbed her hand and roughly pulled her behind the curtain. While she was still shocked by the emperor's appearance, he suddenly spoke. You have met God already, haven't you? Then Red's face went blank. She asked, what are you talking about, sir? AI Aten glared fearfully and said, this power comes from you. Don't worry about anything. This is clearly. His hand tightened around her wrist, causing Red pain. Seeing her frail appearance, AI Aten became even more excited. Stay by my side then. Red was confused. Why? He advanced threateningly until he found this thing. I will keep you by my side. Hearing his command, Red thought to herself, did I just hear that right? Did he just say he wants me as his concubine? No. Hasn't he already been ready to kill me for treason? Your Majesty. She grasped his hand and said, I'm sorry, but I want someone younger. After speaking, she even smiled teasingly at him for being old. AI-10 was stunned and didn't accept it, covering his face and laughing. AI-10 changed his attitude coldly. You are somewhat bold, very interesting. Let's see from now on. In the castle that morning, Red was sitting thoughtfully at the table, recalling what AI-10 had said. You have met God already. This power comes from you. Red pondered, looking at the shiny knife in her hand. She murmured, he clearly said God, the power he sensed from me. Could this also be related to God? The deity who saved me, and when turning back time will take away half of my lifespan, she thought while cutting the cake on the plate. Too curious, Red decided she should at least know the name. As Red was walking, she noticed someone behind her. She thought silently about it, then Sicarios Iandel. She is the advisor sent by the Emperor, very likely to keep an eye on me. Red turned and asked the advisor. Sicarios replied, yes, princess. Red asked, do you know where the nearest temple is? Sicarios answered, it is outside the square in a temple complex, but it takes 2 hours to walk there. Hearing that, Red froze. She wondered, what kind of temple is that? Sicarios focused and explained, it is the Sodium Church. Red was surprised. Sodium? That is the national religion, a temple of the national faith. Moreover, that temple. Red hesitated, turned around, and the two looked into the distance. Red expressed, is there no more mysterious temple than that? Somewhere like an isolated forest, Sicarios suspected. In the forest? Then Red looked around. She said it seemed quite difficult to move at night because it is in a dense forest. So Red began to act. I think I can hear water flowing from afar. She stood behind silently observing. Then they went deeper into the forest. Red deliberately hit Sicarios with a branch to cause discomfort. Red spoke, sorry, how long does it take? She asked again. Red recounted a castle from which everything can be seen from one position. Red became more interested, hurrying to run ahead while she peeked from behind the bushes. Red was surprised. Even the faint sound of flowing water was clearly nearby. Suddenly she stopped. A trail appeared before her. Sicarios saw it and her face darkened. She judged, do you have a special reason to look for such a place? Red stopped and sadly said, yes. She thought silently, if that AI dedicates their time to her, it will restore her lifespan. Red recounted that she had made an important deal with someone in the temple, but both the person and the temple disappeared. Sicarios picked the leaf off her hair and wondered if she knew that person's name, but Red did not answer. Two Sicarios tried to get more information or find out where they lived, but Red shook her head no. Sicarios shrugged and said, so right now you don't know that person's name or any way to contact them? Red sighed and admitted, that's right. Red guessed it was someone known for special talents at the Royal Academy. Sicarios said, Irindel, if it's her, then she would have a way. Secondly, Sicarios seemed to sniff her scent and probed, if that's the case, I have a guess. Red silently guessed, honestly, she still seems different. Then Sicarios coldly said, it seems so. You've been tricked, princess. Red's face fell stiffly and she was speechless. Sicarios reminded her, and now we should return before it's too late, back to the palace. Red stood outside on the balcony, thinking. She recalled Sicarios' words, do you think you were tricked? Red suddenly laughed helplessly, looked up at the sky, and sighed. Was it a scam? Red wondered why, questioning if it was completely wrong, then turned to look behind her. Red remembered the past days when she had to endure endless repeated deaths. This is the place where I finally got a new life. It was destined. Red stood alone before the stairs, thinking about what she should do to survive. She whispered, I really want to live. Now I'm still alive but can't do anything. I'm so dizzy. Red's pale face stood against the wind. The scene before her became chaotic, the speed increasingly blurry and intense. Red staggered and fell forward. Sicarios quickly appeared and grabbed her arm. Sicarios shouted, what are you doing? Red was stunned, turned around, and muttered, I was just wondering. Then Red changed her attitude, smiled, and said, if I fall, will I die? Sicarios doubted her life. You've become like this just because you were tricked? Look at your actions. Sicarios sighed and muttered, it's the scammer's fault. I told you it's not your fault. Sicarios softened her tone to comfort her. Anyway, you have to be more careful from now on. Red smiled and said, thank you for your concern. She was curious. Anyway, where have you been? Sicarios paused, then reported, the prince will attend the little princess's birthday party. They sent an invitation. They hope you will go with him. Red looked surprised. I've never been invited before. That's really surprising. However, Red was not very interested, and said she would refuse. Sicarios held the invitation in her hand, froze, then approached to persuade her. Becoming the princess who goes with the prince will make you the most influential woman in the palace. Red didn't care much about that and laughed. What? Even if I go, I'll just be used. So, Sicarios was also helpless and resigned to her thoughts. That won't happen. Red sighed. The emperor and the prince won't leave me alone. She thought, if things get that bad, then. She brushed her hair and said, should I hold a husband selection event? The two Sicarios were silent and didn't dare to comment. Is that okay? Red stepped past Sicarios and said, annoying people. She worried inside that someone might overhear this. Time passed and Red lay face down on the table. Red softly called Sicarios. With a cold face and still flipping through documents, she said, my name is Sicarios Irindel. Red complained, "That's too long. Sicarios sounds better, right?" Sicarios helplessly said, "You can call me whatever you want." Red was curious. "What do you usually do when you're sad?" She replied, "I read books." Red sighed, "Books are boring." Sicarios suggested, "You can read them as a hobby." "Yes." Red pointed straight at the document pile. "Like that?" Sicarios showed no expression and said, "Yes." Red approached and pointed at the book on the table. "I want to love this one." Then Sicarios quickly snatched the book back, alarmed. "I can only lend it for a little while. So can I read it after?" Red laughed. "Okay." Sicarios seriously said, "But you have to take good care of it because it's not mine." Red happily agreed. "Okay, I got it." Sicarios showed a serious expression. "There aren't many like this in the palace, so you have to keep it carefully." Red nodded. "All right, thanks. I'll read it right away." Then she hugged the book and ran out of the study room. Sicarios was startled. "Huh, right now?" She was like frozen. Afterward, Sicarios thought silently about it. The scene of taming the Duke is really crude. Sicarios comforts himself that it will be fine. In the room, it has escaped from his hands. It stings every time the Grand Duke's body trembles. A sound will come from the bell hanging around his neck. Red's face flushed as she read, surprised. These are the kind of things she likes. The sound of flipping pages echoed. Red became more interested. Ho ho. She focused on reading more. Her vacant eyes looked up at the call of the Count. Red spoke up. "Oh, sit. What's the matter?" Sicarios was curious. "Why are you here?" "I didn't expect you to be here all day." "Are you reading?" Red cast a sharp glance at her. Red recalled, when I started studying it was still dark. Looking at the light filtering through the door crack, Red sighed. Damn, I have a few things to do." Sicarios coldly asked what she wanted deep down. She thought, "Anyway, I don't want to listen." Red placed her hand on the book and boldly declared with just one word, "Want and a desire to be together." Despite all hardships and unashamed before death, I guess I imagined some quite interesting images. Red tried to recall after a sleepless night reading. She shouted, "Love, I will love." Sicarios' face fell. A few days later, there was a new announcement in the country of Sakia. The announcement content was a public recruitment for the husband of Countess Red Sakia, someone who knows what love is. Unmarried and especially under 32 years old, on 1 divided by 11 divided by 519 according to the Amak Empire calendar, after confirming all conditions. The exam includes 3 rounds and will be held on 15/11. Details of the schedule may change in the future. The price, Avet began to be attracted. No, a huge amount of gold. Outside, many men gathered. Everyone started lining up to apply. Red stood watching excitedly. Sicarios helplessly held his head and complained, "Has she lost her mind? The prize money for this ridiculous contest is 1 billion gold." Red expressed, "I saw an official document on the way here." Red pointed outside and explained vehemently, "Don't ignore my love because you see it as useless. Many people want to marry me." Sicarios smirked. She wondered, "Who do you want to marry? Worth 1 billion gold? That's terrible." Red still stubbornly quickly changed the subject. "Why did you follow me here?" Sid didn't wait for her answer. Red guessed. "Are you curious about the candidates for this contest?" Sicarios shook his head. "No way. I went out because I was worried you might get into trouble." After Sicarios sighed, she helplessly asked, "So what do you plan to do with the first round?" Red happily recounted the step-by-step plan for the sword-fighting contest to become her qualified husband. "That person must have good physical strength, so I will test their sword-fighting skills first. Next, I will organize a literary contest to test their emotional intelligence." Red hummed about it passionately. "I want that person to always sacrifice everything for me." Suddenly a loud shout, "Take them away!" The butler was scared and trembling, replying, "It's true, today we have run out of supplies." The assistant angrily grabbed the butler's collar, cursing, "You brat, do you know who this is?" He shouted loudly, "He will become the Count of Sakia." The commotion attracted the attention of the 2 people, Count Lia Chiseskia and his assistant. "Red Tomato, the Count is me. There can't be 2. How can that person become the Count?" Sicarios spoke up. Usually, leadership rights are exercised by men, observing the scene of the 3 people acting. Sicarios guessed he seemed to think that if he married her, he would become the Count. "The prize money is up to 1 billion, but isn't that too greedy?" Then Red started trembling, muttering worriedly, "Ha, I don't like arrogant people like that," realizing a harsh truth in her imagination. "I am a candidate for the future husband position of yours. I think that person will smile at me or feel embarrassed." But like this, Sicarios misheard. "You sound like you're drunk." Red was startled. "That's it." She fell into a delusional feeling, Red declared. "That person, I will eliminate him from the list of candidates." Would other candidates be like that? Seeing her headache about the future husband scene, Sicarios suggested an idea. "Well, why not add a personality test to this contest? I think it might be better to have 2 types of tests." About personality and ability, Red wondered if that idea was okay. She said, "Then I will add it." With her suggestion, Red was touched and said, "I am very happy because you help so enthusiastically like this." Sicarios coldly said, "I'm just trying to keep dangerous people away from you, that's all." Red laughed as expected. "My assistant is excellent." As time passed, the 2 began to disperse. Red said tiredly, "I think I worked too hard today. I feel a bit tired." Sicarios, too familiar with helplessness, told me to work for her. Why are you tired, miss? Red angrily retorted back. I'm busy too. I was about to order some pastries because I thought you'd be hungry. Just then, someone brushed past her. Red exclaimed, "Ah," then Red spoke up. "Are you okay?" That person coldly scolded, "Go away." Then he got kicked in the leg by Cho Fat and gang. Red angrily said, How? How can there be people like this? Oh my god. Sicarius worriedly asked if she was okay. Red curiously looked back at him. That guy fainted after falling, dropping a small bag. Avit bent down to pick up the bag. He sighed. You shouldn't steal other people's stuff like that, huh? Yeah. And Red's eyes stopped at that moment. Avik held the bag looking toward her. Avik loudly said, Hey, you're caught now. There was a hesitant voice, then Red hurried to put the bag away and urgently said, Oh, I thought that was my wallet. Avik coldly looked at her. Then he grabbed the thief. He dropped him with a thud in front of Red and handed the wallet back to her. Avik said, Here's yours. Red gratefully took it. Ah, thank you. Then he was a bit embarrassed. Red sat down in front of him and said, I have something to ask you. How do you know I have a lot of money? I dressed as discreetly as possible. How do you know where it is? He seemed provoked and shouted, What the hell are you talking about? This crazy woman dares to raise her voice in front of you. Avista kicked him down. You better speak properly. I'm resisting helplessly, the demon. Just then the guard appeared. Sicarius spoke up. The guard has arrived. Red paused, then remembered she had formed a temporary guard team today. Because there was a funeral today, she happily greeted the guards, and they led him away. Avit teased a bit. The guard team is too late. Were they all caught already? Avik and Red wondered if they should increase the number of guards. Avik expressed, yes, there was a large-scale competition held. Red silently observed him. Seeing her expression made Avik pause. Avik made a proposal if she didn't mind. Then may I receive a thank you gift from you? Red shook the wallet, thinking of giving him her wallet. Avik quickly said, No need, it's not necessary. Red intently looked at him, wondering what he wanted to receive. Then Red stared at him, as Avik raised one hand to his lips, then stopped before her forehead, his gaze full of solemnity. Red stood stunned, her inner self confused. Before her eyes, it seemed like the scene changed to a forest. Red stood in the large forest, the image of a figure gliding past her feet as if there was a mystical presence. Following that person, Red thought silently. It was Red still silent, letting him place his hand. Suddenly, she leaned close to his face. Then Red pushed his hand away from her body and shouted, Are you doing that? Avit mumbled as I thought. No way. He shyly explained, Don't misunderstand. In our village, we often do this. I was just wondering if I knew you or not. Red looked at him suspiciously, then turned to leave. She thought back about what she just saw, feeling strangely familiar. I saw the moment he touched my forehead. Who is he? Avik spoke up. I'm sorry for the weird action earlier. Well, I should go now. But Red remained silent, watching him leave. Suddenly, Red pulled his shirt back. Wait a moment, she asked in panic. We've met before, right? And him? Avik laughed at her question. What? I've been tricked like this many times. It's still used today, huh? Made me embarrassed, Red snapped back. Tell me. Avik awkwardly tried to recall. It's been a long time since I last came here, so I'm not sure if we've met. Red pressed for an answer. Exactly. When did you come here? Avit spoke up. Really, it's been too long. And I'm sure we've never met. Red silently listened to what he said, then she let go of his shirt. Avit softly said, I'm very grateful for your concern. He said he came here to participate in a competition, pointing his finger in a direction. Red thought silently, a competition? A future husband selection competition? Then she watched him leave. Very new, just loaded. Wait a minute, that's the competition. Sicarius carefully noted that person. Should we choose him as soon as he's on the list? Red decisively objected. Why would that happen? Why are you asking that, Sicarios? Referring to her shy expression earlier, she said it was because she looked at him as if she fell in love at first sight. Then Red sighed and refused. Definitely not. I, Red, said that even though this was the first time I saw him, it felt like meeting someone I hadn't seen for a long time. This strange feeling in my chest, this is not love. Red corrected her mood and reminded her to forget about adding points for Mr. AD. But I should also find out more about him. I understand, mistress. Then Sicarios quickly recorded the content. A young man with blonde hair and blue eyes. Red added, besides that, please announce the recruitment of more knights within the territory. Red added that the monthly salary is 40 gold coins. Sicarios' eyes darkened like lightning. Slapping her ear, Sicarios hurried to stop her. Mistress, usually knights only get a salary of 20 gold coins per month. Red replied, I know that. Sicarios froze her face. Oh, you know? Red smiled slyly and said, That's why I suggested doubling it so they would work harder. Ah, you think so? Sicarios looked at how she threw money around, making her face fall. Are you serious? Time passed. Sicarios was at the first palace. Red sat at her desk, pondering. Forming a separate knight team is basically illegal under national law, but if she appoints a knight as the royal team leader, then by law she can form her own private team. Thinking of a loophole, Red leaned back in her chair and sighed. Red expressed that the royal family has nothing she likes about them. Sicarios spoke up, Go ahead. I have announced the recruitment of more knights as you requested. Sicarios was surprised. You already did that? Good job. Red suggested yes. Also, Sicarios reported that the knight sent from the royal family has arrived. Red was surprised. Really? Who is it? She replied, It's the second son of Marquis Pendelium, Raquante Pendelium. He is the youngest son who passed the night exam, and also won the royal sword tournament. Red was confused and said the king personally gave him a sword. Sicarios reported more shocking news. He is also the second in command of the royal army, but recently, he was suspended and reassigned here. Red eagerly asked what happened. Sicarios recounted that before Marquis Boruto died, Red thought the last person he met in the capital was Marquis Pendelium, but no evidence was found showing they had motives for rebellion. Red said as Sis said, Marquis Pendelium is not involved in the rebellion, she added, but only because he met Marquis Bottas. Time passed and Roquan appeared. Red greeted him, honored to meet you. His hand tightly gripped the paper. Roquan Pendelium bowed and greeted. Greetings, Marquis Frisky, Red silently observed. She noticed he was a bit uncomfortable. Is it because he had to come to Bottas's former residence? If only his father hadn't met Marquis Bottas, he would have had a bright future. Then the two sat and talked. Red expressed, thanks for coming despite the long journey. I'm glad to meet someone as renowned as you, Roquan said. On the way here, I was shocked to see a public announcement. Yes, Roquan suspected the person. Did you issue this announcement, madam? He looked at the crumpled paper in his hand. Red was confused. Wait, is that the recruitment information I issued? Red admitted yes. It has my official seal. Although it's a bit wrinkled, it's still visible. Roquan shared his impression. Seeing this now, I understand how you recruit more knights. Red asked, so what do you really mean? Roquan spoke, a knight's loyalty is sacred. It starts with deep reverence for God. If it's you, how is it different? Loyalty can't be bought with money, Roquan said angrily. Red laughed at his opinion. Haha, Roquan, I have never demanded loyalty from anyone for myself. A woman who killed her husband and returned to her family. A woman who even when killed was punished too lightly. A miserable widow who defied everything and became rich overnight. She spoke confusing words. Roquan was silent, sweating coldly. Red continued. A crazy woman who held a contest to find a new husband. Red laughed. That's everything people say about me. Isn't that so? Then tell me, AI will be ready to sacrifice loyalty. For a woman like me, I raised my hand to the paper trying to explain, and from the start I made it clear. I want to find a knight to work for me. I want a pure relationship. According to the contract, Roquan hesitated. That's me. I expressed that no matter what, if I have to follow your standards, loyalty will be given to money, and not to me, right? Roquan silently listened to her, then spoke a bit harshly. AI knows better than to say that. Red laughed. So what should I say now? In other words, between me and money, money is more valuable. Then she quietly observed him. Red thought that he had lived his whole life with straightforward rules, and this kind of conversation seemed unfamiliar to him, and that was exactly why he was a talented person worthy of being chosen. I don't have a personal knight team. So many things happen in the territory. Red added, plus someone with leadership ability. If you become the captain of this army, Roquan, I will ensure that the Pandorium house will not be involved in the riot. Roquan was slightly moved. Red reminded, please reconsider my request. Roquan wondered what would happen if I refused. Red thought and laughed, saying, well, if you refuse, what can I do? I can only wait for the next capable person. If I get rejected again, then... Before she finished, Roquan interrupted. I agree, making her freeze, her expression faster than she thought. Roquan declared, if you entrust me with the position of captain, I will serve with all my might. The two shook hands. Red happily said, thank you, Roquan. I will pay you more than 80 gold coins. Roquan withdrew his hand shyly and said, I don't want to take this job for money. She was startled and stammered, of course. Red made a proposal, but the commander cannot receive the same salary as other members. He looked at her. Red folded the paper leisurely and said, anyway, it's good to see you don't hate me. Roquan suspiciously pondered life. What do you mean? Red whispered. You criticize my actions. Roquan raised an eyebrow. She added, but you do not deny my existence. They continued to discuss. Red wondered, what if I set a contract term of 2 years and 2 months? When Sicario spoke up, we can adjust it over time and propose better conditions. Is this okay? Why must it be 1 year and 2 months? Red hesitated, wondering because anyway, sis. How long will you work here? Sicarios replied. The assistant will serve their master for life, unless fired, and those who know this territory well cannot be sent elsewhere. She added, from the start, it was already difficult for an assistant to change jobs. Red thought about what she said, but if there was a letter of offer, then what else? Red muttered, a letter of offer? Then I should write one first. The words made Sicarios freeze. Red pondered, should I include permission for her to hold a flower pot to deal with others? At work when angry at someone? Anyway, the future candidate position is also the father or older brothers. Just then someone came. The Count? Sicarios tensed. Are you going to fire me? Red quickly said, no, why would I fire you? Where else can I find a perfect assistant? Sicarios coldly said, unless my assignment here by royal order is a problem. And Red smiled slightly. I don't care if you come from here or if you have other intentions. Not only that, I don't know if that will happen to me in the future. Sicarios added, I really like this place. And she hesitated a bit. She really isn't such a bad countess. Although sometimes she seems crazy. Her words surprised Red, but seeing her speak sincerely, she was very grateful. Thanks, sis. It feels strange to know there are still people who don't hate me. I need to treat them well while I'm alive. I need to treat them well while I'm alive. I will rely on you. Then Sicario switched to work topics. So should we increase the budget for the tournament? Red sighed. That's a different matter. Time passed. One day, a big contest took place at the palace. Sicarios observed from afar through binocular. Red's voice rang out. So how is everything? Any potential candidates? A small cat appeared in the binoculars. Sicarios said, I'm not sure anymore. The butler stepped forward. We are ready. Red smiled. So I guess I'll have to find that person myself. 2 Sicarios asked curiously when seeing the happy smile on Red's lips. Madam, you seem quite excited. Red's eyes immediately sparkled like stars of happiness, exclaiming, of course, today marks the beginning of my journey to find love. Today is the day of the first test in the competition to find a future husband, the swordsmanship tournament. Before the tournament started, I decided to appear before the participants to cheer them on. Honestly, I was just a little curious, so I added this test even though I need to see what my future husband looks like. Many people are participating in this contest. We can't organize this test all at once, so we will divide it into several days. After evaluating their swordsmanship skills, the tournament will proceed with a point system, eliminating those who don't meet the required scores. Hundreds of participants will be eliminated each day. It would be better to rank the successful candidates, right? The urgent call of the Sicarios rang out. Count! Here are the search results for the person named Avid that you requested. Red looked suspiciously at the paper in her hand. Then repeating the man's name, Avid, Red quickly took the paper from the Sicarios and carefully read the contents inside. She silently recalled the feeling when she met the man named Avid, the man who gave her a strangely familiar feeling. What is that thing in the forest? Is this all? The Sicarios closed his eyes and calmly replied to Red, I have searched everything related to him, but there is too little information. He lived in a village deep in the forest. When I investigated, there was information that he appeared here a year ago. The final conclusion is just that this is the village as he used to live in, where one day he suddenly appeared like many others, stayed for 3 days and disappeared without leaving any trace. Then Red. Hearing her report, she fell silent, wandering from place to place, staying at strangers' houses, then disappearing. No blood relation to anyone, no known background, an unclear identity. Is there any evidence explaining why he keeps leaving? Does he like wandering? The Sicarios seriously recalled that both villages gave similar conclusions. He was searching for the ruins of an old forgotten religion, things like abandoned temples or forgotten relics. He searches for anything related to Holy Land, religious relics, scriptures, and even descendants of believers. Therefore, villagers think he is a scholar or a researcher. Red was confused, realizing the similarity since she traveled back in time until now. Since traveling back in time, strange things related to the Lord have been circling around me. The king of the temple disappeared, and now it's the man named Avid. Then the Sicarios suddenly spoke again, interrupting Red's thoughts. Before he left, he said something strange. Finally, I found it. Right here, in this silent corridor. Nu Chin walked while resting her chin on her hand, puzzled. She silently wondered what he could find here, who he really was. A familiar voice suddenly sounded behind her. The Count quickly turned around and was astonished to discover the person behind me? Roquan. Roquan officially became the leader of the Knights 5 days ago. Could it be due to his experience as the royal army leader? Or his true self? He formed a promising knight team and started a rigorous training course. The more I look at him, the more impressed I am. Do you have any documents needing urgent approval? Roquan whispered in reply. Not that. I want to escort you to see who the participants today are. Red widened her eyes in surprise upon hearing that Roquan wanted to escort her. Should she? Does he think she has evidence? For his family's innocence. Gawa, be loyal to me if you want proof of the truth. Does he pledge loyalty to her? Thinking so, Red gently placed her hand on his chest, smiling brightly and gently. Hey, Roquan. As I said before, I don't need you to pledge loyalty to me. You don't need to worry about that. Roquan bowed his head and whispered an explanation. It's not that. I just want to. In the crowded waiting hall outside, Sicarus loudly announced to everyone, Countess Friskia has arrived, and the boys immediately stopped their individual actions. They looked up and glanced at Red, whose sharp and graceful face gradually appeared. Red, along with Roquan, walked together into the waiting hall with a relaxed demeanor, and everyone immediately gaped in astonishment. Gawa, but when he looked up and glanced at Red, he caught the dark, gloomy gaze that Roquan gave them. Everyone broke out in a cold sweat, panicking. How could the former leader of the Royal Knights, Roquan Pendulum, be here? The two then went up together to the rooftop, looking down below at me. Red gently announced, before this important match begins, I won't take up much of your time. But first, let me thank everyone for coming. The boys were captivated by her voice. They were stunned and silently admired how beautiful her voice was. Red smiled brightly and added, I hope none of you get hurt and everyone stays safe. I'm very eager to see who is worthy of advancing to the next round. The boys couldn't help but clutch their hearts in shock. Blushing, Red turned away, making them regretful and shout out in disappointment. That scene secretly pleased Red inside. Many people know how to love me, very happily. During the meal, Red wondered and asked Sicarus, where is Roquan? She respectfully announced while pushing the door open. Not here yet. Red was shocked and stood up. How come? He was the one who proposed this dinner. She recalled Roquan's suggestion from yesterday, when the two were walking side by side in the hallway. Can I have dinner with you? Red worried he wasn't the graceful person who missed the appointment halfway. Why is everyone running? Suddenly, a blinding light flashed. Sikaris turned her head and exclaimed, "Ah, that's Lord Roquan." But Roquan suddenly turned pale at that moment. He rushed into the Countess. "I have urgent news," Red anxiously asked. "What's going on?" He seemed out of breath. Roquan quickly replied with a face full of cold sweat. "There's a strange phenomenon outside. A very large black hole has appeared in the sky outside." Just as he said, a deep black hole suddenly appeared in midair, with no known origin. Rick exclaimed in surprise. "A black hole in the sky? Exactly. Where is it, Roquan?" He cautiously reported with a hint of panic. "Behind the garden, in the forest near the empty land by the lake shore." Red's eyes widened in shock as she realized that was where a temple once stood. Now she understood. There's no coincidence here. The discomfort I've felt until now and the strange phenomenon appearing today might all be because of me. Red quickly turned and walked away. "I have to go there immediately." Sikaris quickly spoke up to stop her. "It's very dangerous, mistress." Sikaris offered, "I will go with you, Loken." But Red immediately turned and glanced at her, then firmly said, "No, I want to go there by myself." Red resolutely left with her body. Roquan then quietly reassured Sikaris, "I will go with her, so there's no need to worry." She looked at him and gently nodded. "All right." In the deserted forest, shrouded by terrifying darkness, small black holes silently appeared in the sky, creating a hair-raising scene. Sikaris brushed aside tangled hair from her face and loudly informed Red of the Countess's location. "The wind is very strong here. Be careful." Red suddenly stopped when she saw a figure ahead of her. She carefully observed the man's face, then was shocked to recognize him as Avit. Avit slowly walked forward as if being drawn by that huge black hole. Red anxiously shouted, "Avit, stop!" Avit gradually regained his senses and softly called her Countess. Red urgently yelled, "Order Avit to leave this place quickly." Roquan raised his hand to shield her and warned, "It's very dangerous to get close to that hole. If you approach that crack, it's too risky. Get away from there right now." Avit gradually understood, suspiciously pointed at the black hole, then innocently asked, "Oh, is this dangerous?" "It's quite small, so if you touch it like this." Roquan turned pale and gritted his teeth with furrowed brows. "What are you doing?" Avit's hand was still touching the black hole, a little scared but also fascinated, laughing. The black hole suddenly moved violently under his hand, then it suddenly shrank. To the astonishment of everyone, the Sicarios witnessing the scene also began to freeze. Both Red and Roquan were speechless, silently staring at Avit. Something silently fell to the ground. Red stepped forward strongly toward Avit and asked, "Who are you?" Avit looked confused, lightly pointing to himself. "Me? Huh, can this be considered a contestant trying to make a good impression in the competition?" The forest echoed with strange, wild sounds. Red was running away from something in fear. She was tired, leaning against a tree, breathing heavily and exhausted. Suddenly, a black hole appeared beside her where Red was resting. The black hole had a strange shape that gradually spread out. Unlike its strange form, it suddenly grew larger. Then it rushed forward, tightly enveloping Red's entire body, causing her to panic and recoil. But it was too late. Red's eyes widened in fear, then she stood still, motionless. At that moment, darkness gradually enveloped everything as the black hole, with terrifying power, grew even larger. The forest once again fell silent. Red opened her eyes. It was the story of the next morning. She stood up straight and walked around with curiosity. "Where am I? This place, is this exactly the forest I've seen before?" "That's right, I feel like I've been here before." She suddenly glanced at a familiar silhouette standing beside her. Red suspiciously called out the person's name, Avit. He slowly turned his head, revealing a mysterious face, staring at her. In reality, Red immediately startled and opened her eyes wide. She tiredly rubbed her temples and murmured, "It was just a dream. I had such a strange dream. It must be because of what happened yesterday." Sicarius brought documents closer to her, then said worriedly, "Countess, you seem a bit tired. Should you rest a bit?" Red tilted her head, closed her eyes tightly, and refused. "There aren't many things to solve. Last night, besides the Count's territory, there were many other cracks. They appeared in many different places in the city, but strangely, the farther from the capital, the fewer cracks appeared, so I think they are related to me. Is there something else in this game?" And Avit, he faced that like it was nothing, even making it disappear easily. And Red silently recalled the explanations Avit gave her last night as proof. It is believed that these cracks also appeared 300 years ago. Bishop Sodium must have recorded them. "You should look into them." Red then curiously asked, "How could you make it disappear?" Avit hesitated, answering, "That is a secret, but I really have a sacred power within me. If those cracks continue to appear here, I can eliminate them." But Red was unmoved, still looking at him with suspicion. Avit quietly whispered into her ear, "As a contestant in the competition, I consider this a gift for you, but don't tell AI about me, especially not Bishop Cerium." Red rested her chin on her hand, puzzled, lost in her own thoughts. "A favor just for me? I don't know Avit's true intention, but now I have no other choice but to rely on his ability. I should make a contract to keep him, but why hasn't Avit come yet? I called him a long time ago. Sicarius quickly reminded Red's memory. You should remember he is currently participating in the match. At that moment, a knock suddenly sounded, making Red suddenly more urgent than ever. Avet, come in. But when she saw who was outside, Red immediately deflated, speaking with a disappointed tone. You're the referee, right? The competition referee bowed respectfully before her. Yes, I came to see the Sicarius. Seeing Red's attitude, she commented, You seem quite disappointed, right? The competition referee smiled brightly and announced, Countess, the winner of this match has been decided. Red exclaimed in surprise, What? The decision is already made? Isn't the tournament starting this morning? It is conducted in an elimination format. The one with the highest score yesterday was AI. Sicarius suddenly called out the winner's name, which was in the contestant file, Avik, with a perfect score. The competition referee admired Avik, constantly praising his talent. He has a talent that is truly admirable. The surprising thing is that he still hasn't become a knight, and after hearing the count sent someone to find him. He completed all the matches in less than a minute, and then the familiar footsteps and voice of Avit suddenly rang out behind everyone. Is everyone talking about me? Hello, Countess. I came here in a hurry because you called me. He had just finished the sword match, yet there wasn't a speck of dust on him. His hair was quite wet. He once said he was trying to impress me. Maybe he just finished bathing, but at this moment he admitted it because the Count was paying attention to me, which made me quite excited. Hearing this, Red sat on the chair, interlacing her fingers. I hoped you would show up. Moreover, I hoped you would keep your promise about the special thing you reserved for me. I hope you will come to the mansion every day. Starting from today, suddenly Ovid immediately stepped closer and asked the Count, Is the condition you set too strict? However, Red remained very serious with a cold expression. I hope you will pay attention to the matches. While the tests were underway, Red was cautious that more black cracks might appear. Of course, I was thinking about making a contract for this. As soon as he finished speaking, Sicarios glanced at that man thoughtfully. It seemed she ignored his words, while Avit hesitated a bit, scratching the back of his neck. If I tell the truth, will I get extra points? Z was a bit confused. What are you trying to say? She continued, wide-eyed, listening as David added, Actually, Red, I have set up a protective layer for this mansion. So no black cracks will appear inside this mansion anymore, unless they become so large that they can't be controlled. As soon as he finished, Red suddenly became angry, quickly stood up from her chair and shouted, Wait, you also set up a protective barrier. For this entire territory, right? Meanwhile, Avit raised both hands high without haste, stammering in response, That's too much for me. After a while, Red seemed to regain her composure and slowly sat down. With a cold expression, Is there any trace before those cracks appeared? After hearing this, Avit lowered his voice and glanced sideways, avoiding eye contact. Usually, there is a phenomenon where space starts to distort, but sometimes they appear without any warning. This made Red extremely shocked and confused. How do you know about them, and how can you control that? Were you once the bishop overseeing the Sodium Church? And if you were expelled from there, maybe that's the reason you don't want me to tell anyone about it. Meanwhile, Avit suddenly forced a smile. Is that so? I guess you would think that. But actually, I'm not a priest. Seeing that, Red still wore a frighteningly serious expression. Then how do you have that kind of power? At that moment, Avit slightly bowed his head and looked down. You could say I was a believer in the past. As soon as he finished, a thought immediately flashed through Red's mind. In the past? So now he is no longer a believer. Could it be that he abandoned his faith because he was expelled? Besides, he's not a priest, yet he has divine power and is gathering information about things related to the divine. I know he won't give a serious answer with that expression. That smile is hiding his thoughts and feelings inside. That's exactly the expression I've used many times before. Even if you are AI, it doesn't concern me. Right now, you're just a candidate for the competition. I hope at least I can know why these cracks appear. Immediately, a man's voice responded, If that's what you want, then I know. Hearing this, Red became anxious again. How do you know? Why do they appear? Avit also seized the opportunity to propose an exchange condition. If I tell you, can I receive a favor from you? Hearing this, Red quickly agreed without hesitation. Of course, just tell me what you want. Money, a mansion, a title. After a while, Avit squinted slightly and asked straightforwardly, Can I move freely inside this mansion? That's fine. These words struck Red like a lightning bolt. She unconsciously agreed. I can even let you move freely within this territory. That's a very simple request in exchange for such valuable information. And you can go shopping over there if you want to make Avik06 hold back a bright smile like a flower. She thinks about how much I will spend, and Red at this moment also showed a happy smile. You can even buy a nearby piece of land if you want. Avit slightly bowed his head, pondering. I was also planning to buy another turkey burger with cheese. Over there, Sicarios was holding a pile of documents, eyes closed, thinking I'm used to this already. Scene change. Red furrowed his brows tightly and asked, All right, now tell me the real reason for this. The teacup on the table was still full of sunlight shining on the table. At this moment, Avit put his hand to support his chin and said yes. You could say those cracks appeared to clean up, making Red a bit puzzled. Clean up? Avit could only ramble on. unexpectedly into knowledge about the universe. There is a certain amount of energy on Earth when one type grows stronger, then immediately another type of energy decreases to maintain balance. But when a certain type of energy exists wrongly, cracks will appear. Hearing this, Red expressed confusion. Wrongly? Avit immediately replied indifferently. That's right. It's when that type of energy is not allowed to exist. The energy source that should not be on this world, like when a person takes energy from others to help themselves live longer, or when a divine energy source exists at a limit, it breaks the balance. Meanwhile, Red sat tensely on the chair, filled with thoughts. Is this what he's talking about? Does that mean these cracks appeared because of me? Because I went back in time where I should have died long ago? After a while, she gasped and exhaled deeply. So Red sat on the chair, continuously holding his head, laughing. Heartily, Sicarios stood silently observing. Red was still immersed in countless thoughts, so I only have 1 year left to face this. To face the cracks trying to kill people that they think have broken the energy balance. Do you think I will die like this? The chair she was sitting on suddenly moved. Red stood up to face the person in front and said, Thank you for telling me this. I allow you to move freely here. Avit was a bit silent after hearing that, said nothing more. The hands of the two reached out and touched each other seriously, shaking hands to cooperate after hearing about the black cracks from Avit. I'm even more interested in this match. Red hid behind a wall, watching 3 men from afar. I can't die without knowing what true love is. I want to live the rest of my life my own way. I'm still waiting for other candidates over there. The voice of that AI kept echoing. I didn't pass the last round, but that's fine. Anyway, I don't have to face that monster. You're talking about the winner of the sword fight? I never thought such a talented person would appear here. The face of that guy is quite handsome too. Hearing this, Red smirked. Are they talking about Avit? But meanwhile, the 2 others kept talking. That woman is no joke either. Countess Ficia? Yes, she's very beautiful. Red silently listened to the story unfold. The red-haired man habitually twirled his fingers, but what's wrong? She's not quite normal. Red's eyes immediately widened and his face turned cold. All 3 argued for a long time organizing a contest like this. She's really not quite right indeed. Will that benefit us? The red-haired guy facing them sneered. Maybe if you marry her, you can flatter her and get her to give you a royal ship suddenly. The 2 young men couldn't help but bump into each other continuously, while the red-haired sighed and continued. She's very fond of men. If you say sweet words a bit, then it seemed he noticed something unusual, immediately turning his head back. Red's gaze also followed there. She looked at a tall man with a dark face quietly called Lord Roquan. Red was very surprised by Roquan's sudden appearance. Why is Roquan here? And what about the other knights? The knight who just insulted Red was immediately kicked down by Roquan, rolling on the ground. Roquan even drew his sword. With all his strength, Roquan's sword was at the throat of that loudmouthed knight. He trembled, not daring to make a sound. Roquan hissed, Unfortunately, you will be beheaded here, and not allowed to participate in the next test. That knight shouted angrily at Roquan. Why did you do that? He hadn't finished speaking when Roquan already turned his sword and pressed it closer to his neck. WHO dares. Do you think your life will be safe after using those shameless words to provoke the Count? Not only that guy, the 2 accomplices beside him were also affected by Roquan's anger. Right now, the aura radiating from Roquan is enough to suffocate those around the talkative knight. Those words made him tearfully beg, Please have mercy on me. But Roquan does not have enough mercy for cowards like that. You can beg for forgiveness in the afterlife. Roquan raised his sword high. The talkative knight panicked and shouted, but just a second later, Roquan sheathed his sword, obviously scaring that talkative knight for life. Even if I want to take your head, it's best to handle everything according to procedure. Take him away. The other knights accompanying Roquan quickly obeyed the order. Yes, Commander. Those 3 knights looked pale as if they hadn't yet recovered their spirits. Roquan suddenly turned his head back, staring at the wall opposite him, then spoke. That surprised Red greatly. You can go out now. Count Red shyly peeked out. Aha! How do you know I'm here? Roquan replied firmly. As a knight, one must keep a keen sense, and I even smelled a scent. Red was surprised that Roquan was so honest with her. She was a bit stunned by that. But just seconds later, Red smiled and replied, Then next time I'll have to try a different perfume. When I want to hide from you, Roquan quickly said. I didn't mean that. Red seemed very comfortable teasing Roquan. Haha, well, anyway, I thank you very much. I was wondering how to deal with those guys, but thanks to you, I no longer have to worry. Roquan told Red not to worry about disciplining those guys. I will also ensure. The other participants are warned about this issue, so don't let yourself be troubled by such things anymore. Roquan's words were so sincere that Red couldn't find a reply at once. Moreover, Roquan's eyes when looking at Red gave her a strange feeling. Mixed emotions when looking into Roquan's gaze. What is this? Since I returned, he's the first to look at me with such eyes. Suddenly, I want to know how he feels. Is it pity? If not, then what is it? Red was lost in thought, forgetting she was staring at Roquan's face. At this moment, Roquan's call brought her back to the present. Thank you for worrying about me, but I'm fine. No need to waste time worrying about the opinions of people like them. I can't let my time be wasted. Because of those people, Roquan replied. Then I'm relieved. I should have been more careful. I'm really sorry for letting these things happen, Red reflexively shouted. What? Why are you apologizing? You helped me a lot, and I'm always grateful for that, Roquan. didn't expect Red to care about the things he did like that. So Red smiled and said, "Since you appeared, the number of crimes here has decreased significantly, and the night team has become stronger, right?" Roquan suddenly brought up a rather troublesome issue. "But haven't you lost faith in me?" "Of course that question." "Red, how could you answer?" Roquan continued asking. "Red, that's why your contract extension is only 1 year and 2 months, right?" Red no longer smiled. She seriously thought, "I think he feels more comfortable not mentioning that contract. I don't think he thinks that way. Could it be that his hard work on missions is to gain my trust?" Roquan's promise still echoed in Red's ears. "Trust me." Red felt her heart shaken deeply by those warm eyes. "No." Roquan waited a long time but still didn't get an answer from Red, so he called Count. Red cleared her throat and answered Roquan. "Ah, it seems you misunderstood. Actually, from the first time you came here." Red cleared her throat and replied, "Roquan, it seems you misunderstood. Actually, the first time you came here, you weren't very enthusiastic about this, right? So I thought if you still feel that way after the contract ends, I would let you go comfortably. I intended to introduce you to a better place, but it seems I caused a misunderstanding." Roquan hurriedly explained. "That's not true." Red smiled and said, "I'm glad you're always so kind. Recently, I looked over a knight's oath. I was quite curious after you mentioned it. Actually, it was the romantic description of the knight's oath in a play that sparked my curiosity. What I found out is that the knight's oath is read while kneeling, on the knee in front of the person they pledged to always be loyal to, speaking their oath. And finally, they raise that person's hand. Of course, as time goes by, the oath becomes more romantic, which is probably what has touched the hearts of many women." Red said to Roquan that in the play I read, there was a line in the knight's oath that said, "I will always protect you until my last breath." "Is that true?" Roquan answered her. "Yes, that's right." If a knight makes their oath to a lady, they usually swear like that, so Red understood the issue. No wonder it became something that many girls long for. Roquan suddenly asked Red, "So do you like works about knights?" Red didn't think much and unconsciously replied, "Of course, they are very admirable." "Then have you ever wanted to protect someone before?" Roquan said calmly. "I think that's my duty." As a knight, Red forced a smile because that answer wasn't really satisfying. "Right, I know. But besides your duties and responsibilities, have you ever wanted to say your oath to someone from your own feelings?" Roquan was teased by Red so much that he didn't dare to look her in the eye. "Have you ever wanted to receive an oath from someone?" The Count laughed carefreely and replied, "Not yet. I can't rely on someone's oath to live in such a harsh world. Besides, I no longer belong to this world. I don't wish or have the courage for someone else to spend their whole life responsible for my life. I have to protect myself. But I'm very curious to know who that person you want to protect for life is." Then Red reminded Roquan, "We've arrived, so I'll go ahead." Roquan still stood there waiting until Red's figure disappeared. That seemingly normal conversation, he made Roquan feel shy every time he thought about it. He recalled the childhood memories he had experienced. A knight's oath is always romantic and flowery, often heavily influenced by plays and novels. When I learned those things, I thought they were frivolous and fake. Many people despise the oaths they have sworn. Is that similar to the people around her? That gaze no longer expects anything. Roquan looked up at the high sky for a long time, then bowed his head down. How ridiculous. Roquan suddenly felt his chest empty. He just turned back straight to his place. Some people don't even need a knight's oath. 3 weeks have passed since the cracks appeared. The last time the royal family sent artifacts created by the sodium line, they would be erected like a wall to block those cracks. But because they need to be placed close to the cracks to be effective, the common people were also terrified when they saw those cracks. So I formed an army that could place those artifacts in the right positions, and also provide relief for those affected by the black holes. This led to a flow of migrants coming to Friskia territory without prior notice. However, illegal migration is against royal law, so I introduced the concept of long-term residence and allowed them to stay here temporarily. The real reason I care about the safety of this territory is because I feel I really have an important role in this. I think everything might be because of me. More importantly, I have determined to shine brighter day by day no matter what happens. My husband recruitment will still proceed as planned. The second personality test ended. Red leisurely lay on the sofa reading a book when Sicarius appeared. "Master, Avit's item has been completed." Red immediately forgot what she was doing. It seemed she was more interested in this new item. Avit's item was completed. Red immediately forgot what she was doing, seeming more interested in this new item. "Thanks, sis. I'll give it to him right away. He said he was in the garden. He usually comes here every day to prevent other cracks from appearing. Perhaps that's partly due to his calm attitude. However, we have become quite comfortable with each other, like friends." Then Sicarios told Red that before she did that, he had some information to report from the royal family. Red was a bit surprised, so Sicarios continued, "In the next week, there will be a birthday party for the crown prince, and the queen wants to know if she will attend." Red sneered and replied, "That's really troublesome. Last time I refused the invitation to the youngest prince's birthday party and didn't even care about it. I don't want to go anywhere. Should I make up an excuse that I'm busy managing my territory?" Sicarios sighed. It seems the royal family really wants to strengthen the relationship between her and them. especially while Friskia's territory is growing strong. Red immediately understood Sicarios' meaning. So you think I should attend, right? Sicarios got straight to the point. If she refuses again, it might be seen as her separate from the royal family, and her family said she would go with them. Red pressed her lips tightly. Her eyes flashed a little, and then the light disappeared. Red sighed. These people are really stubborn. Fine, I will attend, but I will not go with them. Sicarios nodded and replied, I understand. The whole mansion is filled with the warm sunlight of family with many people. That is the most precious thing in the world. The more Red thought about it, the more uncomfortable she felt. But for me, hearing that word also made me feel choked. Sometimes I feel everything would be better if they didn't exist. Red stopped when she saw Avik sleeping soundly in the garden, sunlight shining on his handsome face. Avik looked like he was favored by heaven. Red stepped up and bowed her head to look down. Looking at this guy was really surprising. Avik was sleeping so deeply that he didn't know someone was watching him sleep. Red unconsciously smiled without realizing it. Even though he had dominated my husband's selection contest, I still couldn't find anything related to his true identity. I reserved a room for him, but he never used it, and usually slept outside. Maybe he wasn't used to staying in one place. Did he travel everywhere in the past 3 years? At least I could still meet him until death. The cicada's noisy chirping made the garden even louder. I don't know what Red was thinking, but she kept laughing from earlier. She softly called his name, Avik. Red even reached out to help Avik shield his eyes from the sun. Then Red playfully moved her fingers to cast shadows on Avik's face. While playing, Red saw Avik suddenly frown. Red was startled and quickly withdrew her hand. He was having a nightmare. They say when you do this to someone, it might mean you care about them. Avik slowly relaxed the wrinkles on his forehead. It seemed he was much more comfortable now. Red looked at her fingers. She thought, but more importantly, why does this feeling feel so familiar? Have I gradually gotten used to him? But still don't know his real identity. And at that moment, why was he so surprised? Well, maybe he has a secret like me. Red gently pushed the new necklace towards Avik, having finished all the necessary things. She quickly turned and left. Behind her, Avik had woken up. He held the necklace tightly in his hand. This time, Avik was truly awake, his eyes wide open, filled with many thoughts. Maybe the second round of the contest was over. Probably only 400 people left, right? While Red was still thinking, her older brother Rayton suddenly called out, Riyat. Then Red turned back with a cold look. Ryan smiled and asked, it seems you are not feeling well. Seeing Red not answering, Ryan continued stepping toward her. He asked again if managing this place was exhausting her. Red angrily brushed his hand away that wanted to touch her, then shouted, don't touch me. Looking over, he seemed to care about his sister, but I know his true nature because I have endured him for too long. An aura as if it always belonged to that man. Ryan. Lofriskia is the pride of the family. Ryan naturally always stood beside his father on every occasion, the firstborn son always supported by his father. He was loved unconditionally. With that love, he believed he could make a name for the family. Friskia. Ryan worked tirelessly to meet his father's expectations. He disregarded pressure from the Count himself, but in reality, it was really unforgivable when Jai Tan kept messing things up. This is the root cause of all changes. His repeated failures have turned him into a person with violent tendencies. And those fits of anger were always aimed at someone as weak as me. Red bitterly recalled the sharp pain from the shard of glass under. And ironically, the brother Zaytan suddenly came to the door to visit Riyat. He heard you haven't chosen someone to go with you to the prince's birthday party. He suppressed his tone as if probing. Surely you're not thinking of choosing one of those strange contestants in that ridiculous competition, right? His subtly mocking words reached Red's ears, making her, who was about to get angry, suddenly enlightened. Why? Hadn't I thought of that? That's the best way to fight against my family without having to WHY. A bold thought flashed through Red's mind. Her heavy mind was forced to imagine again the appearance of those who were originally close. Those people were always attracted by achievements and fake fame. It seemed like they used their achievements to polish their name if that wasn't enough. I also heard that they nearly even did business under their own name, taking 10% of the money, a small amount. The rest was used to stage events, hoping to get investment from nobles. At that moment, the feeling of contempt uncontrollably appeared again in her, and at the same time, a counterattack plan was quickly established. So would that intention be crushed when I appear splendidly, and completely ignore my family when I'm there at the prince's party? I'm really looking forward to it, Red smiled with pleasure thinking about the upcoming party. I will choose someone to go with me. She waved her hand, then changed tone to question Gai Tan. So why don't you worry about your own business, really? I'd feel better if you just disappeared. But Gai Tan acted as if it was normal. Before that mocking remark, he thought this was just temporary. But seeing how you fell, why do you dare talk to me like that? He suddenly flipped his face, his cloudy eyes boiling with anger. Red, as if knowing that attitude, just sneered. So you mean to say I dare say such things to you? But Ryan was still boiling with rage. Why did you organize such an absurd contest under the Friskia family name when you have already abandoned the family? These ridiculous accusations only made Red's heart grow colder. Unconsciously, she asked herself, WHO abandoned. WHO. You guys are the ones who betrayed me, but you didn't do that. WHY. And then the fake voice of Count Friskia echoed from the past. Count Bodis wanted Riyat to become his wife. The younger brother slightly frowned when hearing the news, but isn't the Count too old for the girl WHY? Duke Friskia changed the focus that couldn't be denied, but the dowry he offered was impossible to refuse. 5,000 gold taels, that huge amount, immediately made his two sons look at each other. He pretended to consider if the two wanted to refuse for Riet's benefit, but Joytan was speechless. Then the younger brother, who was frowning, now beamed. Surely he would be happy to contribute to the family. The eldest brother, Joytan, also strongly agreed. That's right. Father receiving the attitude I wanted from my children. Duke Friskia smiled with satisfaction. Of course, I thought the girl would be like that. I'm really blessed to have such wonderful children. So the three of them continued to discuss this issue lively, unaware that all their words and actions had been seen. Red stood silently indifferent, observing everything. Her heart from that moment on also died completely the very next day. The wedding was held and no one was curious about what I wanted, thinking about those painful things. Red in the present could only smile bitterly. I really lacked foresight. Yes, right, and thought you already knew. Wrong quickly coaxed. That's right, finally you realize now. Go back to father's place and beg for forgiveness. But her words then became bitter. I should have done the same to you. Yes, Ryan was embarrassed by this. What did you just say? Red lowered her head, questioning him. Do you know what it feels like to be abandoned? If I also sold you like that, like the way my respected father and brothers did, then maybe. Now I wouldn't have to stand here listening to such trash. In her eyes and voice there was only coldness. I'm really stupid. Jaitan's face twisted suddenly with anger. What's wrong with you? But Red only gave a cold smile, the mockery clear in his voice. Honestly, I also wonder who would want to sell people like you. Jaitan lost control for a moment. He raised his hand to strike her. How dare you? But Red, facing his violent action, instead of dodging, frowned and faced him directly. But the slap didn't land on her as another hand quickly stopped it. Avid appeared at some unknown moment, timely stopping Vitan's action. Red glanced at him in surprise. Avid's sharp face showed no complex expression. I know Titan was being defiant, he growled, ordering, let me go. Do you know who I am? Avid's words stopped him mid-sentence. I need to know? I don't care. Just don't touch the Count. Titan withdrew his hand and changed his tone. How dare you? Don't talk to me like that. Red immediately cut him off, admitting, yes, he is a contestant in the competition. And he will accompany me to the birthday party, she said while signaling Avid, who immediately understood. Wearing a forced smile, Avid agreed, that's me. But Jaitan looked disdainfully at Red. You're crazy, bringing this kind of person. Red warned him, be careful with your mouth. He might become my husband. As soon as she said that, both men were stunned in shock. That exaggerated reaction confused Red. It's just a lie. Why are you so surprised? Unfortunately, Jaitan heard the absurd words, gritting his teeth. A worthless guy will become your husband? After all we've done for you to become Count, this is humiliating. Those words surprised Red. Everything you did for me? Yet Jaitan still calmly admitted, yes. We made you who you are now. His brazenness disgusted Red. How dare you say that? She immediately shouted out all her pent-up anger. I never wanted this. But you sold me for meaningless gold, and now you think everything was for me? Jaitan's shamelessness seemed limitless as he shouted as if everything was Red's fault. Stop whining about things that happened long ago. Wasn't that wedding what made your status? Hearing those cruel excuses, Red couldn't hold back her disappointment. Has it really been that long? Negativity overwhelmed her mind. I died many times because of that wedding, and now I only have 1 year left to live. And you tell me to forget everything? Just for the status I gained to survive. But not noticing her unusual emotion, Brighton still acted as if nothing happened. I know you're right, he said, but when he tried to grab Red's hand, Avid immediately stopped him. He decisively pushed Jaitan back. His wrist hurt so much he couldn't move, lying still on the ground. Avid's trembling brother warned coldly, if you dare come near the Count again, I'll break your leg. So be careful. As Red left, the atmosphere in the mansion, the Count and the atmosphere returned to normal. Avid thoughtfully escorted Red inside, her mood still very bad. Her frail body began to tremble. She muttered curses softly. Avid also felt sorry and hugged her shoulder. He let Red lean on his chest and gently comforted her. He really is a monster, but Avid remained silent. He didn't even look at me anymore, just simply gave me his shoulder. He had never comforted anyone before. However, perhaps because of that, his hug was extremely comforting after releasing all emotions. Red slowly sat down beside Avik. Suddenly tired, she leaned back, closed her eyes, and exhaled deeply. Ah, I'm so hungry, Avik heard Red say and helplessly sighed. After everything, she only felt hungry. I guess I'm worried for no reason, Red exclaimed in surprise. You're worried about me? Avik didn't deny it and gently nodded. Yes, that's right. After everything I did to pass the exams, what kind of person do you think I am? Red carefully observed Avik's face. Truly serious, she felt it, suddenly blurting out a serious comment. A contestant with a handsome face? Avik shyly turned his head away, embarrassed, scratching his head and speaking softly. I will definitely take care of it. Red bowed his head and glanced at him again with a serious expression as he confided, even though I initially planned to meet the 3 outstanding people separately, who made it to the next round, but because the party will take place next week, I will start preparing. I will only pay attention to you for the next week. Avid's eyes widened at Red's words. Then he laughed and responded to her joke. I'm really touched. It seems I have to maintain my #1 position, but Red quickly used his keen intuition to notice the attitude. With a smile on Avik's lips, he was only pretending to be surprised. Usually Avik only wore a mysterious smile, but when it disappeared, his expression became so confusing it was scary, seeing him happy like this. I know he's just doing that to make me feel better. From now on, I'll be quite busy. Avik curiously asked about something she always wondered. By the way, what is that dance party for? Red didn't hide and answered immediately, making his face freeze in shock upon hearing it. The Crown Prince's birthday party. Red wondered silently when seeing Avik's silent expression. Huh, is something wrong with him? She quickly spoke up. Oh, you don't like places where many nobles gather? Avik looked straight ahead and quietly denied. It's not like that. It's just that I think someone like me could never get to places like that. That's really interesting. And Red Shark noticed something strange. He had something he wanted to hide, but she was subtle and didn't ask much. I understand, by the way. Shall we have dinner together? I saw Avik surprised, pointing at herself in red. Me with you? She happily nodded and teased. Yes, it's just whether you want to or not, Avik exclaimed happily. How could I refuse when the inviter is you? Red heard and slowly stood up, suggesting, all right then, let's go. Don't tell AI about what you saw today. Avik closed her eyes tightly and answered, I don't have any AI to tell. It seems you're the only one I can talk to. Every time I meet the Roquan Knight, he just looks at me like this. Red looked at Avik's face cosplaying as a lump of coal, and couldn't help but laugh silently. That's exactly how he is, but why does he do that? The words Roquan said to Red from the past suddenly came back. Now I'm a bit puzzled about that. Red explained further, but there are many notable things about that contestant. Red gently said to Avik, so can you keep an eye on Avik for me? There are many reasons for that. He nodded quickly to reassure her. Don't worry. Other contestants don't even talk to me. But Red suddenly turned and glanced at Avik, then seriously asked, Avik, are you being ostracized by everyone? He only made a face, then realized that's how it is. Red thought helplessly, why don't you know anything? The next morning at the luxurious mansion, Sicarius closed her eyes and asked indifferently, I postponed the contest as you requested, but will you really take time to review all these designs? Red looked at the mountain of stuff in front of him and calmly answered, of course I have to. No way. Sicarius thought helplessly. She was becoming the talk of the nobles because of the husband-finding contest, and now she even went to the social event with one of the contestants. More importantly, she even hired 7 designers at a very high cost. Red suddenly spoke up to explain, cutting off her dissatisfied thoughts. I want my family to pay attention to me. Yes, they really want to see me at that social event. So shouldn't I make a big step? Sicarius whispered in response. Of course, for her family's sake, I understand. Then I will bring Avis to Avis. Finally arrived, he said happily. You called me Count? But before he could finish, the male servants in the house grabbed his hand tightly in confusion. What's going on? And Red happily raised his hand toward Avik and said, didn't I tell you? Today we will start preparing for the party. Avik, still confused, asked, but why so suddenly? But his body was quickly pushed by a male servant. Go this way? Then Avik was forced to undress amid screams. Today we will start preparing for the party. Avik asked confusedly, but why so suddenly? Yet his body was quickly pushed by a male servant. Go this way. Then Avik was forced to undress amid screams. Urgently, a few hours later, Avik, with a trembling voice, quietly called Red's name. Countess, you don't like me, right? Red coldly replied to him while holding a small file of documents. If you knew the price of the outfit you're wearing, you wouldn't think that. The tailor then stepped out excitedly and finished the announcement. As expected, he was truly amazing. Red just glanced at Avik and was satisfied, exclaiming it's good, and Avik wearing a suit further enhanced his sharp beauty. More than ever, Avik's handsome face slowly looked towards her. Very Red immediately enchanted by his beauty, making her stunned. She hurriedly turned her face away, embarrassedly commenting, wearing that is fine too. By the way, the stylist girl just now suddenly exclaimed with an excited expression, I know you organized a very unique event, Count, but I didn't think you could find such a perfect person. Your eye for people is truly admirable. Red laughed heartily. Ha ha, thank you. It seems the designer really likes you. Avik seemed annoyed again. I don't care about impressing the designer. Nu curiously asked. Then who? Avik closed his eyes tightly and rubbed his head irritably. Do you still have to ask? He suddenly threw his arm around, making her eyes widen. Avik gently replied, of course it's you. When can I ever win against you? Count Avik threw his arm over the rest chair, then gently whispered into her ear, when can I ever win against you? Count Red stared blankly at his face up close. Should I tell him to step aside? But I can't say it, this outfit really suits you. Avik was surprised by Red's sudden attitude change. She smiled brightly, leaving the chair, suggesting you said you want to capture my heart. Right, then wear this to the social event. Avik grumbled, annoyed. What? I struggled a lot to wear it. And you want me to keep doing that? Hand gently swept over to the jewelry box full of accessories on the table. She slowly stepped toward him. Who knows, maybe I really fell for you when I saw you like this. Avik stared at Red's enchanting face, briefly frozen. If that's what you want, then I will follow. Then Avik worked hard preparing for the upcoming social event, while preparations went smoothly. The whole kingdom was affected by the crack effect, so the royal family increased the number of guards accompanying me to the party. Coming soon. Finally, only one day left until the social event. Roquan introduced me to the knights, assigned to protect me. Roquan brought her before a knight introduced. Here is Lady Sylvia. At the social event, I will be by your side closely, and Lady Sylvia will lead the other knights, following behind. Her name is Sylvia. Red happily observed her intently, then silently evaluated. I heard she was born and raised here. If Roquan personally introduced her, then she must be very trustworthy. I rely on you, Lady Sylvia. I highly appreciate your diligence and personally acting as my guard. At the social event makes me feel more comfortable. Ragan walked behind Red, respectfully replied immediately. I will complete my mission, but Count, will you really go with Avik to the social event? Red did not hide it and happily nodded. Right, everything has been planned already. What? Is there a problem? Why? Roquan lowered his head and spoke softly. If that's because you can't find a more suitable person, then you can ask me to go with you. Red, hearing that, looked confused and asked again. Are you saying you, Roquan, might go with me? Roquan didn't know why, suddenly blushed and turned away. Yes. Nu tilted her head slightly and laughed aloud. It really is my honor, but I don't want to be a burden to you. I know you may have been assigned here by the Emperor, but you attending the party with me is another matter. Roguz. Pandelium is the most prestigious heir of the Pandelium family. A family with power that enlightened the entire empire, although currently falsely accused of treason. When death erased his reputation, within a year he will be pursued by many noble women. I can't stand that, Roquan. You are truly too outstanding to go with me to that party, so I don't. Roquan at that moment interrupted Red. I am not someone you can't reach, Count, and I don't feel burdened when you ask me to do that. So next time, please give me a chance, Red. Immediately widened her eyes in surprise at those sincere words inside the luxurious room. Roquan opened the door and stepped into the room with a somewhat irritated look. He sighed lightly, a gentle word from Red. He earlier was still lingering around Roquan's head. Next time I will go with you, he then stared intently at her beautiful face, remaining silent without uttering a word. Roquan clenched his hand and murmured with an expectant look. He mixed with a bit of happiness. She had accepted it already. Night had fallen beside Red's bed. She tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep, only able to keep rolling over. Red sat up, annoyed, thinking silently that she couldn't sleep. Maybe drinking warm water would make her feel better. Red immediately grabbed the small lamp and went out of the room. A noise nearby suddenly sounded, making Red alert and attentive. She immediately stopped in her tracks. Then Red broke out in a cold sweat, thinking, is someone still awake? Or am I just imagining things? No, I'm not imagining. Who would still be awake at this hour? There's no one here, but there are countless doors in this mansion. So why is that one still open? It's the stairs leading up to the tower, where all documents related to the rebellion family are hidden. Did someone get sent to retrieve evidence? But only I know their location. So how could that person open the double-locked door of this tower? Could anyone do that? Hesitant footsteps stepped on each stair. Going up the dark tower, she cautiously took each step inside the dark shadows. The loud noise grew louder along with Red's hurried footsteps. She suddenly looked up. The door slowly pushed open. Red's eyes upon seeing the person inside became shocked. She tightly held the lamp, carefully observing the shadow standing before the door. The oil lamp flickered dimly, sometimes bright, sometimes dark, wavering in the darkness. Red gradually followed the light and called the name of the person she saw. Avik. As he saw her, he smiled brightly with a caring expression and asked, "Are you still upset?" Red didn't say much and immediately asked Avik's motive. "What are you doing? Those documents?" Looking at the papers he held, maybe he hadn't found everything yet, the evidence for the treason to be dismantled, all over this tower. Avik asked seriously, "If I said I couldn't sleep and went for a walk, would you believe me?" Red didn't answer Avik's question but sank into her own thoughts. What if he's been trying to collect these documents all this time? Since when did I allow him to guard the mansion? Red excitedly ran forward, wanting to grab the paper from Avik's hand. "Give me those!" The oil lamp in Red's hand loosened because of this. Avik sharply noticed its trembling. He quickly caught Red's arm, using his quick reflexes to protect her from the oil lamp, which then fell and shattered on the ground. The sound of breaking glass gradually faded, then stopped, leaving a strange atmosphere between the two. Red and Avik still stood facing each other with many chaotic emotions inside. Avik softly said, "I don't want you to do that." "Are you upset?" Red asked, confused, but was immediately pressed by his hand with something on her forehead. "What's this?" Her face gradually collapsed with droopy eyes about to close. Avik quickly caught Red's whole body as she fainted. "Everything's fine now. Are you upset? You'll forget everything when you wake up, and it will be a sweet dream." Red opened her eyes once again. It was already the next morning. The servants quickly took care of her in a very special and careful way. Avik stood outside waiting for Red beside the carriage behind. Avik's handsome and elegant appearance immediately caught the eyes of the maid girls. Sicario suddenly stepped out coldly, announcing the Count had arrived. Avik's eyes quickly shifted toward her. She stepped out in front of the mansion door, wearing a gentle purple dress. Her sharp beauty was accentuated and became more beautiful than ever. Avik happily extended his hand toward Red. "That's great, good morning, Count." Red looked at his outstretched hand with a faint, unusual emotion. Avik was also puzzled by her attitude. Red slowly brought her hands toward his. As soon as they touched, Red felt uncomfortable and silently thought, "So cold." "Are you nervous?" Avik asked comfortably. "No, what about you?" Red cheerfully replied, I'm feeling very happy. Her answer made him laugh. If you're that happy, then I'm glad. At the mansion where the party was held, the atmosphere was hazy and luxurious with golden hues throughout the event. Immediately, the first thing that caught everyone's eyes was the doorman calling out the guest names. Count Levisia has arrived. Everyone instantly became restless at the appearance of that person, Red, along with Avet. They linked arms and stepped into the party hall together, witnessed by everyone, and murmurs began to rise. Oh my. I've heard a lot about her beauty, but she is even more stunning than the rumors. And who is the person accompanying her? I've never heard of him before. Which noble family does he belong to? But with such an appearance, they might become the center of gossip in this town. Maybe they are nobles from another country. So what? Everyone's eyes stared intently at the two, with judgment mixed with a bit of disdain. A person standing in the corner of the room muttered unhappily. Just as Jaitan said, it's embarrassing to be seen with a commoner like that. I think I should say something. A guest began to realize, then whispered to their friends, oh my. Everyone must look up to her. She's with a contestant from the competition. The man's step, just about to move forward, suddenly froze as the murmurs continued. How could someone like that come to a party like this? And I heard all participants in that contest are commoners. Oh my, maybe the rumors are true. What are the other members from the Fiska family doing? Red glanced slightly at the two men who had just fled, thinking silently that this is truly human nature. If the situation becomes unfavorable, others will not hesitate to eliminate you again and again. Even if I am brought to the square, facing execution, at that moment a clear voice suddenly rang out, dispelling Red's thoughts. Count Fisia, I am very glad to see you again. Red smiled in return. Rutox, I am honored to meet the prince. He glanced at her with joy and continued speaking. I was worried whether you would attend. I hadn't heard anything about you until 2 weeks before the social event started. Red politely replied, that is the prince's birthday celebration party. How could I not attend? Rutops whispered with a hint of disappointment, you came to celebrate my birthday but refused my invitation to pair up with you. Facing his reproach, Red still smiled sweetly. I am still struggling to manage my territory, so I couldn't respond to your invitation. If I caused you worry, please forgive me. With my pride, I thought you would leave and consider it not a big deal. Rutop's complex gaze curved slightly. I understand now. I was very worried. Red's face was full of confusion and question marks. He gently lifted Red's chin and tenderly sighed. So I hope you won't refuse me again. No matter what, I quite like you. Rutox whispered close to Red's ear with a vague tone. No matter what, I quite like you. Everyone who heard him say that was shocked to the core, and murmurs rose again. Did you hear? The prince and Count Fisia. Are they in that kind of relationship? I heard the count refuse the prince's invitation to go together. Well, that's obvious. That's a conversation between lovers. So going with a contestant from that competition is just a show for us to see. But Red here was silently sighing. A chaotic day beginning. They say you easily find someone like you. I realized that when I saw the prince's expression. He is as crazy as I am. Many strange men have started to notice me recently. All have different looks, but somehow all end up enchanted. However, what I felt from the prince was not ordinary infatuation but complete madness, like the look I saw in the emperor's eyes. Just then, a servant suddenly stepped forward respectfully, calling Jutox's name, Your Highness. He looked at her regretfully, then reluctantly said goodbye. Goodbye. Well then, see you later. After that, Rutops left with his servant, leaving Avet beside Red with a cold gaze. Red awkwardly watched their backs and silently thought, from the start, Avet was treated as if he did not exist, but it seems he cares quite a bit. He might not want to admit a commoner like me being able to defeat a noble like him, Avik. What's more important here is that it seems the atmosphere has changed. The girls who once looked down on her have now started to admire her, receiving attention from the crown prince. And she even has a handsome guy accompanying her. Because of that, the boys also became interested in a woman the crown prince cares about. But Red was still confused and bored, not wanting things to get so chaotic. The party began the dance segment. The guests' music played melodiously, noble girls in beautiful dresses with exquisite designs, dancing to every note. All couples embraced each other, completing the music perfectly. But Red and Avik's silence and stillness made everyone curious. Why isn't Count Fisia dancing? They stood in a corner, looking embarrassed. Does she think a commoner like me knows how to dance? She thought he just brought a skilled person to attract attention. Avik silently pondered something. He then turned to Red and invited, let's dance together. She gently reassured Avik. You don't have to worry about what they say. He sincerely added, I just want to dance with you. Red closed her eyes and coldly said, don't do unnecessary things. Avik still smiled brightly, trying to persuade her with sincerity. I really want to, and I'm good at this. You don't just do it because they say so. Looks easy, Red doubted, thinking maybe he observed everyone earlier, then analyzed how everyone danced. Almost 5 songs passed, and he still watched attentively. She glanced at Avik. He responded with a smile mixed with anticipation, but Red thought Avik was always like this. No matter how noisy around, he seemed unconcerned, but in truth, he noticed everything. That's why she felt uncertain. Red slowly extended her hand. Avik stared blankly at her hand. Red then slowly spoke, I'll lead, so just follow me. Avik tilted his head happily, admiring her, You're amazing. Then his hand gradually placed on Red's extended arm. Everyone attentively watched their every move. Avik and Red finally stepped onto the dance floor together. They carefully embraced each other, completing a dance. The music from the musicians played melodiously and richly. Their steps quickened for a moment, performing a skillful spin before everyone's eyes. Red's eyes stared intently at Avik. He suddenly looked up when he caught her gaze. Red asked curiously, "Are you nervous?" Avik's hand gripped hers tighter, supporting her waist and entire body. She fell gracefully. Avik proudly whispered, "I'm trying my best, my lady." His words made her stunned. Those around them also began to see them differently. He started to show the gentleness she saw in other couples. He happily asked with anticipation, "Am I doing well?" A satisfied smile slowly appeared. She sincerely gave her honest feedback. "Yes, your clothes flow beautifully with every step you take, dancing in the air." Avik suddenly asked the Count, "Is there anything I can do for you?" Red was stunned for a moment. Then she gradually regained her spirit, laughing and exclaiming, "Sounds great. If so, you aren't hiding anything from me, right?" She saw Avik supporting the woman in front of him. Hiding something? What do you mean? However, Red still kept a cold attitude. Their hands slowly released each other. First, Red spun once, her dress flaring out extremely charmingly. Everyone present widened their eyes in admiration. Avik once again extended his hand, waiting for his dance partner. After a moment, Red stood solemnly before Avik. Both gently bowed as the dance ended. At that moment, some in the crowd praised, "Oh my, she's so beautiful." I think they practiced before the dance, right? Upstairs in a dark corner, Rutops quietly watched the scene below. He showed a thoughtful and pensive look. Meanwhile, Red gently tilted her head. "I'm just a little curious." After hearing that, Avik slowly replied, "I understand, but there won't be anything I can hide from you, Countess." "Didn't you already check my records? If you like secrets, I can make some. That's crazy, right?" Scene shifts from inside looking out to the dark night sky without stars. Red lying on the bed with both hands on her stomach, deep in thought. "After escaping my family, I always make excuses about being busy to leave the party." The image of Sicarios appears, suggesting that if she wants to leave the social event before it ends, she must accept the prince's offer. As soon as the words ended, Red immediately turned around in confusion. Why? Why is there such a ridiculous matter about the competition? Instantly, Sicarios wrote something in a small notebook. "I will send the invitation to cancel that schedule." Then Red lay back on the bed, closing her eyes and turning to one side. At this rate, when will I ever be loved? Suddenly, a strange sound unexpectedly came out. Someone's hand tightly gripping the door handle. Hearing the sound, Red opened her eyes, furrowed her brows, trying to observe the movement. Her eyes sank back into a series of deep thoughts. Then Red slowly closed her eyes again. The space remained silent like that all night. The next morning, Red looked a bit tired as she left the room. While she was walking, the door of the next room suddenly opened. Avik cheerfully greeted the Count. "Are you getting ready to have breakfast?" As soon as the words ended, Red quickly replied, "Yes, by the way, did you just take a shower?" Avik seemed a bit shy, scratching his head. "I fell asleep." He suddenly laughed loudly. Seeing that, Red just glanced coldly. "Come here as my assistant. Make sure I don't hear any bad news." Then she immediately left, leaving the two people, one man and one woman, behind, confused. In another scene, on a table full of books and papers. Like this, Red lay on the living room sofa, attentively reading a book with a red cover. After a while, Sicarios became curious. "Are you planning to skip the tea party?" As soon as the words ended, Red casually replied, "Yes." Hearing that, Sicarios also held a red book and continued, "But it's very important, as that place gathers all the nobles who usually discuss what happened in a year and come up with strategies for the new year." Meanwhile, Red just sighed in frustration. She could also understand more about other territories when she goes there. "I'm not interested," the two argued for a while. "Do you have any plans with Avik?" Finally, Sicarios looked at the girl lying on the sofa in despair, thinking about it. "Then why did you bring him here?" "Be careful." The book fell on Red's face. She coquettishly said, "I just want to stay here." Sicarios stood up, sweating. Why does she keep acting like that? A few days later, Red sat on the chair, carefully reading each book placed on the table in front of the desk. Avik showed a worried expression and asked the Count, "Are you reading books again today?" Red, still focused on the pages, replied, "Yes, but if you want to go out, then go." This made Avik very shocked. "Why?" Seeing that, Red repeated once more, "I mean, do whatever you want, I won't interfere. Now get out of here." After saying that, she continued to focus on the book content. After a while of silence and daze, Avik looked at the stack of books on the table indifferently. "Got it." He opened the door and stepped out, then met Roquan coming in. They immediately bowed slightly to greet each other. Roquan spoke first. "Your Excellency, I am Roquan." Hearing that, Red greeted him. "Why did you come here?" Instantly, Roquan did not hesitate to introduce that there is a play being held today, making Red a bit curious. "Play?" Then Roquan confirmed once again, "Yes, because lately she often reads about those genres." I suddenly realized there is another topic similar to what you mentioned before. The space between the two suddenly fell silent. After a while, he spoke very seriously. "It starts at 5 o'clock and will last 2 hours, so it won't affect your other plans." Then Sicario's behind also said, I think it's best if you go. In Red's heart, the thought arose that maybe AI was also worried about her staying in the room all day. But it's not like that. It's better to go out and cause some trouble. Maybe you're right. I should go out to change things up a bit. Hearing that, Sicario's quickly planned, then I will buy tickets for Avit too. But was stopped by Red. No, I will go with Roquan. As soon as the words ended, Roquan just silently said nothing. Sicario's widened her eyes after hearing that. Understood. I will go buy the tickets right away. Then she immediately went out. At this time, only Roquan was left in the room. The afternoon sunlight with a golden hue covered the castle. Countless people were gathering by the lake in the courtyard. Red wore a wide-brimmed hat, exclaiming, there are quite a lot of people, immediately. Then next to it, the tone of that AI spoke up because there was a street festival being held on the same day as the birthday party, making Red immediately realize, oh, is that so? And importantly, Roquan, this is the first time I've seen you in casual clothes. Hearing this, Roquan stepped closer and replied, because I saw you wanted to admire this moment. Without having to care about status? It doesn't suit me, Red suddenly said in a coquettish tone. Of course it does, and moreover, I'm very surprised because you look really great. After hearing that, Roquan hesitated a bit. You are also very beautiful. As soon as the words fell, Red smiled brightly like a flower. Thank you. Then Roquan once again reminded her. Anyway, it's very dangerous here because there are many people. Up high, the heavy rice sack suddenly showed signs of moving and was about to fall, but Red still didn't notice and replied, with you here, what could possibly happen? At that moment, Roquan quickly and sharply, hurriedly grabbed the other's wrist and pulled Red's head to lie safely in Roquan's huge chest. Then both of them looked toward the rice sack lying rolled on the ground. Their eyes met, face to face, extremely affectionate. At that moment, from another direction, a young man hurriedly ran over shouting, oh my god, I'm sorry. Are you okay, madam? This made both Roquan and Red very surprised. Madam? After hearing this, Red sighed deeply. I'm fine, I'm okay. Then the young man became more cheerful. Oh, that's a relief. I'll be more careful. At that moment, Roquan beside her warned, I told you to be careful, something just happened. Hearing this, Red didn't argue anymore. Maybe so. Thank you, Roquan. As soon as the words ended, Roquan glanced at the person in front of her. Nothing happened. Are you really okay? And once again, Red replied, yes, I'm fine. Looks like the theater is over there. Meanwhile, Roquan raised his hand to support his chin, thinking, he called her his wife. The afternoon sunlight shone into every corner of the theater. A female singer with shiny blonde hair stood center stage, singing each song beautifully. All the audience applauded and cheered for the performance. Meanwhile, Red sat on the chair, continuously watching attentively in that direction. Suddenly, from behind came a voice calling, Count, do you like it? Immediately, Red forced a smile. Ah, about the play? It's very good. It's a play about love, really very romantic. Hearing this, a thought immediately popped into Roquan's head. I heard the first scene is the main character fighting alone. Would that be considered romantic? Maybe that's the Count's preference. I'm glad you like it. Red kept looking intently toward the stage, seeming a bit unfocused, because he didn't mind following me, so I should focus. She used binoculars to observe more closely. Then Red saw the extremely handsome male lead, her eyes filled with admiration and affection. Red thought, black hair and green eyes. Meanwhile, the male and female leads were still dancing on stage. She continued looking at other audience members at the festival. At the festival, everyone was crying. Is it because I've never broken up with someone I love, so I don't understand? No, because I've never loved anyone. Is not knowing considered normal? Although many people sympathized with them, she thought she should also prepare and learn. That night, the crescent moon appeared in the black sky. Red and Roquan left the theater. Today, I really had a great time. Thank you. Hearing this, Roquan turned to look at her and replied, I'm very glad you felt comfortable. Red once again fell into thought. This is the first time I've directly attended a play. It's good in its own way. After watching that play, I don't want to return to the banquet room anymore. The conversations there were very good. In addition, there was arrogance, pride, and contempt for others. She's really diligent. Suddenly, over there appeared a crowd of people gathering. Red was very curious. Why is everyone gathering there? Immediately, Roquan could see, it seems like a fight broke out. Two little kids happily ran over there. Is there a fight over there? Let's go see. Seeing this, Roquan immediately warned, I think we should go back. But Red noticed the person being beaten lying on the ground. Oh, aren't they all wearing night uniforms? Should we stop them? Nearby, Sylvia spoke coldly. Gilbert, if you say that one more time, I'll cut your tongue out. Red was a bit stunned. She judged them to be the guards that Roquan introduced the day before. She seemed very innocent. But maybe that's just her face. What made her so angry? At this moment, Roquan slowly approached and asked Sylvia, what are you doing? She was a bit surprised and called the captain. Then Roquan stood in front of both of them and read their names. Sylvia and Gilbert, what is going on? So you all thought I would give everyone time to do these things? The two wearing night uniforms remained silent. Suddenly, Red, holding a fan, stepped close to Sylvia. Immediately, Sylvia quickly responded, yes, Count Red. Still very calm, Red asked, why did you hit him? Why did you hit him as if you wanted to kill him? Sylvia replied indifferently, That was a month ago. Some swordsmen from another territory came and insulted me. Count, these swordsmen sided with them, and I couldn't control my anger. I apologize. Hearing this, Red immediately responded calmly. I understand. Your name is Walter, right? Is that really what you talked about with the swordsman from elsewhere? At this moment, Roquan turned and apologized to the Count. This is my fault for not properly training them. You don't need to listen to those words from them, Count. Please allow me to judge them myself. Lord Pendulum is the pride of the Marquise Pendulum family and an idol of many young swordsmen. Yet he is begging a woman like her? Someone who became wealthy and gained status just by a bit of luck. However, Red coldly walked past the person in front and replied, these swordsmen came here at my invitation. So you can't blame him, Loken. Now tell me what you talked about with them. Walter immediately put on an aggrieved tone. They only asked how it was working here, where the competition was held, and I responded. Just as he finished, Red folded the fan in her hand and rested her chin on it. I understand. And I also want to hear this from you. This made another person extremely shocked and scared. Me? Then he slowly replied. The swordsman from elsewhere said something about you, Count. Then Walter agreed and said things like, the female Count bought swordsmen like goods. He also said you were easy on the eyes. And then Sylvia became angry at the words just spoken. Red looked at Sylvia, who was extremely distressed. I understand. She walked slowly but powerfully. Red approached Gilbert coldly. You, Walter, I don't care if you despise me or not. When you call me crazy or criticize my presence, I don't care. However, I will not tolerate that indifferent attitude while you still wear this uniform, along with this badge. I heard you think I buy swordsmen like goods, right? Unfortunately, I have never forced anyone. You are the one who sold yourself for money. You are a swordsman of this country. Should I trust someone who insults their master and believe they will fulfill their duties, as well as protect the people here? No, someone who forgets their responsibility and does shameful things. Hearing this, Gilbert, with a face full of scratches, lowered his eyes and groaned in pain. He knelt before Red. Please forgive me. At this moment, Red quickly squatted down. Facing that person, forgiveness should only be given when the relationship still has connection. You have been dismissed by SA, so you have no value anymore. Don't ever set foot on my territory again. She then continued to Roquan, shyly admitting, my mistake, Lord Loken. I let my personal matters affect training. However, I cannot overlook these things for the benefit of my territory. Hearing this, Roquan shook his head gently and replied, it's nothing. I apologize for not training and teaching properly. After hearing this, Red laughed happily and said, it's all good, Lord Loken. I want to say this. He didn't hesitate to ask, what's up? Yes. Immediately, Red quickly glanced behind. The deputy commander position is still vacant, right? Roquan was a bit confused at this moment. Yes, that's right. But before he could finish, Red interrupted. Then I want Sylvia to take the deputy commander position. Hearing this, Roquan also looked at the girl mentioned. You mean Sylvia? Red couldn't help but smile happily. That's right. Since Lord Loken has become my personal swordsman, we need someone to manage the remaining tasks. She seems very suitable, and she doesn't seem like the type to harm this territory. Yes, by your order, Count, just proceed. Suddenly, Gilbert shouted angrily, if she keeps acting so arrogant, no one will stay by her side for long. But Red just threw him a look full of disdain. There hasn't been anyone by my side for a long time, and now I have worries. That's unnecessary from someone like him. Thank you for worrying about my future, but you should worry about yourself first. What I fear is not something trivial like that. Night has fallen over the vast castle. Yes, Red sat on the cushioned chair and spoke. I don't want to attend the party today. Maybe skipping one call won't hurt, right? Hearing this, Sicarius standing nearby immediately replied, yes, it's okay. She has been gloomy for many days since returning from Plaza. I will prepare some tea to help her sleep better. Suddenly, Red unexpectedly said, hey, why did you choose Fiskia? Sicarius looked at the person in front of him confusedly. She's a bit confused. Why? Red calmly asked with closed eyes. She's quite skilled and can go to better places. So why did she choose this chaotic place? I noticed you came here by royal order. Please tell me about the order you received. What is your purpose in coming here? Not just a servant, but everyone who comes here has a common reason, right? As soon as he finished speaking, sweat began to pour down Sicarius's face continuously. Why are you asking me about this? Or do you intend to bring me back to the capital? Red then turned to look at the other party and explained, no, that's not it. As long as you follow that purpose, you won't abandon me. If you find it difficult to tell me everything, then at least let me know the nature of the problem. After a long silence, the attendant next to Red Hat spoke after Sicarius fell into thought. I received the order to ensure that the Count's assets are not leaked too much to the Crown Prince. From the beginning, he stood behind the Count's magical stone, making Vest smirk a little after hearing this. What a ridiculous order. Wait, thinking carefully, have I been spending too much lately? A list of things the Count has spent on. The husband selection contest, contributing salaries for the swordsmen, hiring 7 designers at once, and hey, from now on, I will save money. Sicarius stared at her in surprise. In another scene, Red stood outside on the balcony, looking into the distance. She looked up at the sky. The moon was so bright, there will be no one by her side, no one at all. Suddenly, a greeting sound came from beside her. Hello, Count. Red was very surprised. Why did you come here? Immediately, Avid announced. I moved to the room next to yours. I heard there was trouble at Plaza. I will be by your side. Maybe I can't guarantee to be with you all the time, but I am confident that I will be by your side for life. Thank you all for watching today's video. Our story continues, with many exciting developments ahead, so don't forget to like and subscribe to support us and not miss the latest chapters. Wishing you relaxing and joyful moments. See you in the next video. Thank you all for watching. On a night when the fireworks brightly lit up the entire night sky, the quiet atmosphere inside the mansion seemed to completely contrast with the lively outside. From the darkness, a girl with long hair flowing freely, wearing a long, white, fluffy, and pure dress. Her face was radiant, but her eyes held an indescribable sadness, shadowed by darkness, so it was unclear what she was holding in her hand at that moment, but because of that,